Hi, folks. So, as we look at poetry, one of the things that we start to want to think about is rhyme scheme. It's something that we experienced a lot when we were younger, looking at nursery rhymes and looking at Shel Silverstein poems, who is awesome, by the way. But as we move into really looking at a deep dive into poetry, we do want to start to look at why rhyme schemes happen. Anytime you've got a writer putting words on the page, they are choosing their words very carefully to try to communicate a meaning, and rhyme will be part of that with poetry. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to look at a couple of different rhyme schemes that you've probably learned when you were freshmen or sophomores, but I wanted to share the screencast with you as we prepare our next poem. So there are three types of rhymes that are probably the most notorious in the study of poetry, and the ones that we probably comment on the most in analysis. And these are the ones that you will probably see in a decent extent on the AP exam. So they are perfect rhyme, near rhyme, and I rhyme. And those are the three that we want to take the time to make sure that we can pull out of our heads pretty quickly. A perfect rhyme is exactly that. When it is read out loud, everything matches the number of syllables, the rhyme itself. The following slides will have examples just to help you illustrate or help illustrate for you. Beyond a perfect rhyme, there is something that we call a near rhyme because nothing in life, including poetry, is perfect. So a near rhyme will also be called an imperfect or a slant rhyme. And the easiest way to remember this is very simply that when you read a piece of poetry out loud, the rhyme will not match perfectly. It will have a similar sound when you read it out loud, but it very clearly will not be perfect. It will not sound the same and it'll feel a little off. And the last fairly common one that you will see is what we call an I rhyme, because on paper, to look at the written word, it looks like a rhyme. But when you read it out loud, it does not. So a couple of things, just a heads up for you so that you get a chance to see what they look like. In perfect rhyme, there are two subsets that you want to be aware of. There's what we call a masculine rhyme, and then there's one we call a feminine rhyme. A masculine rhyme is one syllable, and it is a perfect rhyme. And so you'll see our first stanza from our next poem, Richard Cory there, and I've highlighted for you the perfect rhyme. When Richard Cory went to town, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from sole to crown, clean-favored and imperially slim. Notice how town and crown and him and slim, one syllable in length and perfect rhyme when you read it out loud. In counterpoint to that, we have the feminine rhyme, which is two or more syllables, but it is still perfect. One day my daughter was talking about Tom Holland while we were walking, and she actually does do that. But as you can see, it's a two-syllable rhyme. It is perfect when you pronounce it. And there are three-syllable feminine rhymes, and so on. And again, as you can see, it already starts to create a very sing-song cadence. You probably are having flashbacks to your nursery rhymes. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. You've got a very sing-song cadence that gets created with a perfect rhyme. The other half of that is what we call the near imperfect or slant rhyme, because again, there are only a certain number of words in this world that do have a perfect rhyme, and poets like to use all the words. So a near perfect or imperfect or slant rhyme could be multi or single syllabic, and it has a similar sound. So the mouse escaped the clutches of the cat. The mouse was happy, though the cat was sad. So you have that similar sound construct of the A vowel, but you do not have the same sound there with the D and the T on the end. And again, educational testing services and in general, your professors will not care which term you use in your writing, but I do want you to be aware of the different terms that are used in case it should come up on the multiple choice. And you can obviously ask me anything about this when we meet up later on in class. The last thing, or the last rhyme, is actually my favorite. It's an I rhyme because you see a rhyme when you read the words, but you don't actually hear it. And that's one of the little tricks that one of my seniors used to used to use. I see a rhyme, I don't hear a rhyme, therefore it must be an I rhyme. I will always guarantee you, my love, if you can't do the same, you may need to move. So again, on paper, looks like it should rhyme, but does not. So the upshot of this overview is to really start to think about the purposes, like why does a writer do this? Remember, a writer's tool are the words. So we really want to think about what intent they have when they're using the words. And again, with poetry, it's very open to interpretation. As long as you can support your discussion through that close read, most of your readers are going to buy that. So remember, perfect rhymes really create a musical cadence. Could be very appealing to a younger audience. It could suggest structure and planning, because if you are going to work that hard to make everything rhyme, you've thought about it. You've taken the time. Sometimes it suggests irony. In a piece of poetry, language could be perfect, but we all know the real world is not, and the writers are always communicating about the real world in which they live. Imperfect rhymes are less structured. Perhaps maybe there's less intentionality, or the writer themselves may not be as well versed in many types of words. It could imply a sense of imperfection regarding the topic that the writer is writing on. And again, same thought with I rhyme. It could imply irony, it could imply some deception, it could imply laziness on the part of the writer. I think the upshot with the purpose here is for you to be thinking about why a writer might choose a particular type of rhyme, and that you are able to explain that when we go through discussion or when we go through a close reading or a piece of writing. So that's a little bit of a background on rhyme scheme. And again, this is not for you to come into our next discussion having it all locked down. This is a place for us to start thinking and making some discussion points when we look at poetry. There is another type of rhyme, which is no rhyme at all, free verse and blank verse, and I will take some time to look at that when we tackle a poem that has a little more of that. So having said that, I hope that that helps, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you start to apply this in the readings that we have. Feel free to ask me any questions, and as always, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you soon. Thank you.